Now, my feeling about what is happening right now politically, and in the immediate future, if you've been a regular listener to this podcast, you know that I really am in the depths of despair. I truly am. Now, these guys, the four people who co-wrote this piece, being much more political in the constructive sense than I am. I'm political in a destructive sense. By that I mean, when I see the bullshit that passes for politics, I want to attack it, burn it to the ground, destroy it. Because from my reading of history, both American and world history, I understand how fragile and how easily consumed by fire democracy can be. And I've also come aware of what invariably replaces democracy, and it is dictatorship of one form or another. And if you're a regular listener to this podcast, you know that my attitude has gone straight to hell about where we are right now. I would love to come on this podcast every night and offer some sort of, or at least once a week, offer some sort of uplifting idea that carries with it the hope that this shit's going to end. But I can't. I can't do it. I have watched the deterioration of the Republican Party since Reagan. I know these four people who wrote this piece I just read would not agree that there has been a deterioration. But I laid that deterioration at the feet of the Christian crazy fuckers in this country who took over the Republican Party and are now willing to hand it over to fascism. Christianity and fascism are very similar. I'm not talking about the teachings of Jesus. I hope you've come to understand that. I hope you've listened to this podcast long enough to know that I fucking despise people who self-identify as Christians because of what they represent, what they are party to, and what they refuse to overthrow and destroy. And that is the sickness that has entered into Christianity, both Protestantism and Catholicism. But as far as Christianity being the teachings of the rabbi 2,000 years ago named Jesus of Nazareth, of course I believe in the purity of what was said and the rationality of what was said by the rabbi and the reasonableness of what was said and the dignity and the spirituality of what was said. I hope that has come through. But I watched Christianity rise to the level of Nazism in this country. And it is a rise to the level of Nazism. Any religion that can claim that Donald Trump represents anything but the worst aspects of humanity, any religion that can do that, to me, is a sick perversion. I don't give a fuck if they use the word Christianity. They are not followers of the rabbi, Jesus of Nazareth. They are not. Okay. So again, if you are a regular follower, listener, subscriber, whatever term you want to use to this podcast, and prior to this podcast, when we used to do radio, you are not surprised that I have reached this level of despair, and because I get the feeling you have too. I mean, come on, let's be real. And what to do about it. Now, today, Tuesday, was a big day for impeachment rallies around the country. But that's still not enough. That's not enough. The people around the world are looking at the United States wondering, what the fuck is it going to take? Because in so many countries, this shit is going on, whether it's India with Modi or the UK with Johnson or Turkey with Erdogan. It's happening in country after country, this rise of fascism. Bolsonaro in Brazil. And I hate having this attitude. I really do. There have been times in my life where I've looked at the political situation and I have felt despair or fear or anxiety or a combination of the three. But I can look over the horizon. I've always been able to look over the horizon, past Vietnam, past Nixon, past Cuban Missile Crisis, past this stuff, and see, okay, well, there's hope over there. And I don't see it now. And that's more of an explanation of me, perhaps, than it is of what's really going on out there. But I have a feeling that a lot of people who listen to this podcast feel that same angst, that same submerged rage that has no place to go, because we're watching things being destroyed, things essential to the preservation of self-governance. We're watching them being ripped to pieces and flushed down Trump's commode. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.